and welcome to another edition of Licorice Pizza. And talk about a guest today. Guy right next to me, right here. He's here. This is Elijah Winfrey. He's the one that really started this whole thing off, Elijah.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey, my friend.
It has. It really has.
Because you were saying for a number of years you wanted to do a
Yeah,
podcast.
I've always
and
wanted to do that.
I finally conned you into it. So
Yeah.
now you're, 11 episodes in by now, I believe? So that's crazy.
Yeah. 11.
Congratulations, by the way. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Now it's your turn.
So, Donnie and I were joking around, off the show about who was going to say the whole like, comment, subscribe thing. So we know that you hear this from every single YouTube video, so we're just going to do it our own version, okay? Like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out greatly. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on our channel. So if you can do that, if you can help us out, we would greatly appreciate it. And Donnie actually has some pretty awesome Licorice Pizza shirts. You should be seeing them right there if I did my job correctly. And they go from small to 6XL. We are size inclusive. So if you are looking for a Licorice Pizza shirt, I would encourage you to check it out. I'll put the link in the comment section below.
All right.
I think we covered everything.
Yes, and you got a great band you're going to be talking about today. My first time hearing them. You played several songs, and I like these guys. Audio A.
That's right, Audio Adrenaline. So this is a faith-based band. For folks who don't know much about me, my father is a pastor, so I grew up listening to a lot of faith-based music, and this is one of the bands that had a huge effect on me. So I've seen Donnie do enough of these episodes. I feel like we can go into the history lesson, right?
Right, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So Audio Adrenaline started out in the 90s. And their first album that they came out with was just simply called Audio Adrenaline.
Their debut?
Just Audio Adrenaline. Yeah. And then they came out with an album called Don't Censor Me. And during those first two albums, they were trying to find themselves.
Correct.
And figure out what is this band going to be. And of course, back then, music was a little different, because you had the early 90s. You had some bands that were trying to be grunge, but
were they
really
early
there.
90s or?
Yeah, they were kind of early 90s.
Really? They were around at that time?
Yeah.
Wow.
So then, after they came out with Audio Adrenaline, they came out with Don't Censor Me, they finally kind of hit it big with their album called Bloom.
Third album?
Third album.
Third album, yeah.
And so on that album, there is a song called Big House. And that song actually got radio play, not just on Christian radio stations, but also mainstream radio stations. So that was where they kind of looked at it and they said, okay, we figured it out. This is what we're going to be.
Their identity, they found it.
And that album, it's not one of the three that I'm going to be going into and that me and Donnie are going to be discussing a ton. But that album, Bloom, if you're just looking for something different, I would encourage you to check that album out. What you'll probably end up finding if you listen to all the albums that we suggest here on this episode, you'll find that in Bloom, there's little traces of things that they later on perfect in further albums down their discography.
Right.
Because you know how bands do that. Sometimes you're like, okay, that's where they started finding that, and then there's where they perfect it.
Yeah, you can listen. It's pretty obvious listening to it, yeah.
So Bloom comes out, I believe, in the mid-90s, if I'm not mistaken. And then their next album is called Some Kind of Zombie. And I feel like what they were trying to do with that is they were trying to capture what a lot of the rock bands in the time frame were doing in the late 90s. But unfortunately, because it sounds different than Bloom, people were not huge fans of it.
Right. Okay.
So it didn't sell as many as Bloom did. Bloom was a gold record, by the way, for Audio Adrenaline. They actually had a gold record for that one.
500,000 copies or more.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of hard to live up to that. And I know you were talking about that a few episodes ago with Boston.
Oh yeah.
About how they were trying to live up.
Yeah.
So for Audio Adrenaline, they released Bloom. They released Some Kind of Zombie, and then things start to get a little real for them because they are getting ready to get dropped from their record label if they don't do well on their next album.
Yep.
And so the album name for their next one was called Underdog. Came out in 1999.
Yeah.
And what I love about that is the fact that it's not just an album name. It's actually kind of a personality, a mantra, if you will. They were the underdogs of the industry trying to survive.
Well, the cover you showed me too, it's like it's got that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Says it all.
I really enjoyed that record, that album.
That's some kind of pressure, man.
Yeah.
To have that over you, that's pressure.
And some of the singles off of that, just in case you're curious.
Yeah.
Mighty Good Leader, that's the first track on the album. Underdog is the second track. Get Down is the third track, which is actually one that I had Donnie listen to.
Yes.
So what did you think of that one, Donnie?
Loved it. I love the chords to it. They're a band that come up with these great hooks. And all the songs don't sound alike. To me, they're all different, but nice hooks. And I love their harmonies. That's become a lost art with bands like harmony. My God, I mean, they've got the harmony. But the songs are good. They're good. Yeah, very recognizable. You hear it once, and you remember them.
And then they also had Good Life, which is a song we're going to come back to in a moment. But Good Life,
story, yeah.
Good Life, a really cool story behind that one. They also did a cover, and forgive me because I don't know the original artist that did this song, but they did a cover song of Let My Love Open the Door.
Oh, that's Pete Townsend of The Who?
There you go.
Is it the same song?
It is. It is. It's a cover of it, though.
Open the door.
I was going to say Peter Frampton, so I wanted to make sure I said the right name.
Who. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I said the right name. Otherwise, there's going to be a bunch of comments. So.
Yeah, 1979 they came out with that. I'm surprised they did that one. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't play that one for you early. I really should have, because that one you know. But then they also did Hands and Feet, which is another single for them.
I did listen. Yeah, Hands and Feet, great song.
This was that album where, like I said, that their mentality was, we're the underdogs of the industry. We have to do something to save ourselves. And they did this album. And
I'm glad it worked out. You said that went gold? Or?
I don't know if this one went gold, but I know this one was a big album for them.
Probably went gold.
Especially on the Christian music scene.
Yep.
So, from Underdog, we move on to the next album, Lift, which I'll be showing you the album covers up here. But one of the things that Donnie and I looked at, and Donnie had never heard this band before, but you said that the cover of Lift reminds you of another band's cover. Who was that?
Joshua Tree, U2. It did. Yeah, it really did. I love the cover of it. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that was the motivation. I mean, maybe it was.
Yeah, it
but
could be.
You can see the album cover.
Yeah.
I always try to figure out where to point on these things. But you can see the album cover right here between me and Donnie. You tell us if you think that is inspired by Joshua Tree.
That's a good way to put it, inspired. It's not like they walked out to the Joshua Tree and did it that, but they're the ocean? You got beautiful background. That's a great cover.
So during the making of Lift, something started to happen with Audio Adrenaline. And that was lead singer Mark Stewart started to realize that something was wrong with his vocal cords.
Wow.
He was having difficulty controlling his vocal cords. And if we could just pause for a second, I just want to put people in perspective of what that might feel like. So imagine being a member of this band where you have just survived this huge obstacle for your band, where you were almost dropped from your label. For lack of a better term, the party was almost over.
Yep.
And you figured out a way to save it just in time for your lead singer to now have issues with his vocal cords.
Yep.
And so Mark Stewart took, I believe, steroid shots and other treatments to get through the recording of the Lift album.
Wow.
To try to keep things under wraps as far as what was going on, so that folks wouldn't not buy the album.
Yeah.
And a lot of Audio Adrenaline fans will tell you that this album, the Lift album, is actually their favorite.
To the fans, it is definitely their, okay.
To me, it's not, but there's a reason why it's not, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. It's not a bad reason by any means. But I do love this album. A couple of the songs I showed you from it, I played you Ocean Floor, which is the biggest song from that album. What'd you think of that one, Donnie?
Loved it. I heard a little Beatles influence on that. The harmony's fantastic, and guitar playing and stuff. But the little bits. One thing about the Audio A is they take. It's not they're copying anybody. It's they take from so much, and kind of make it their own. If that makes sense. Kind of in their own. and it works for them. To me, it sounds good. It doesn't sound like it's corny or anything. It just works for them. Yeah, I love the song. Yep.
And then I also played for you Rejoice.
Oh God, that's got some soul to it. Amazing soul. They're all over the place. Yeah, and then they get into that soulful guitar stuff in that song. And every song is different they play. It's not the same as previous songs. Some bands it gets like, oh, okay, that it's kind of sounds the same,
Mm-hmm.
This band's different. I mean, yeah, very talented musically, and the vocals, like you said, that album. If he was taking shots, you'd never known. His vocals were great.
And I do just want to mention the other band members briefly. So, with most of these albums, 2 out of the 3, the 4 main band members were Mark Stewart, who played lead vocals. You also had Tyler Burkham, who did lead guitar for the band. You have Will McGinnis, who did bass for the band, and you had Ben Sissel, who was the drummer.
Fills, yeah.
So, got to give a lot of credit out to all those guys. So, from Lift, after they had the big success of Lift, they still were having issues with Mark and his vocal cords and trying to get everything under control. And so they come out with another album in 2003. So 1999 was Underdog, Lift was in 2001, 2003 was Worldwide. That's the next album, which you should see the album cover for that in between Donnie and I. One of my favorite all-time album covers for any band is that one that you're looking at on the screen right now. This album, because of the issues with Mark's vocal cords, they kind of had to tag team it a bit. So Tyler Burkham would do a verse, Mark would do a verse.
Now, does he sound like the original, like the lead singer? Did you find?
Tyler Burke, I think he had his own.
Or was there a difference
sound.
there?
There was definitely a different sound, but I think they complemented each other very nicely.
Right. Yeah.
Which made it work, because if they were completely different, that would be very bad.
Right.
But I feel like they complemented each other very nicely, and this album, again, kind of features a little bit of everything because they had to.
Right.
But one of the things that I wanted to show everybody is this thing here, and I'm going to actually try to get it in camera, in frame there for you. So this actually was kind of interesting, and I was...
Free backstage pass, really?
Yeah. So with every copy of Worldwide that came out in family Christian bookstores, they would have in the CD a free backstage pass. Now, you had to buy a concert ticket. Obviously, you couldn't just show up and go in the back of the venue and say, we're here.
Yeah.
You still got to buy a concert ticket, so they were smart as far as that's concerned. But it was still cool to see this, and I've never seen another band do this, where they just automatically include it.
After a show, and they're probably tired, let's face it.
Yeah. So what's cool about this, though, is my dad and I actually went to this. And we went to the concert that was in Alpharetta, Georgia. And what ended up happening was we were like the last people in line for the meet and greet. And so by the time we got up to where the band was, the entrance we walked through was closed. So after the band spent some time with us, and they spent a lot of time with us, like they didn't have to, but they did, we ended up having to walk out the same doors that they went out to go out to their bus.
Reason for everything. Yeah.
So for me as a little kid, and I'll put a photo up. I'll put a photo up here for you to see it. But for me as a little kid, it was really cool to be able to walk out the same doors as the band and kind of feel like an honorary member, if you will. But Worldwide for me is an album that I really enjoy. Have a lot of great memories from that, and the Lift album too, because we got to see them quite a few times on that. But for me, Audio Adrenaline, they always went that extra mile for the fans, and I always appreciated that from them.
A lot of bands don't.
So let's hop back to Underdog, because I said we were going to say a story about the song Good Life, and I forgot to mention it.
Yeah.
So this was pretty cool. So as I was talking to everyone earlier, the singles off of Underdog were Mighty Good Leader, Underdog, Get Down, and Hands and Feet. If you notice, Good Life is not one of those singles I just mentioned. Here's where the story comes into play. Okay, so after the release of Worldwide, Audio Adrenaline, the original members, would release one more album called Until My Heart Caves In. And unfortunately on that one, Mark Stewart was kind of sidelined up for a lot of the record because of his vocal issues. Yeah. And so they decided to kind of shut it down after that. Well, unfortunately, and he talks about this in his memoir, which I would encourage everyone to read. Even if you don't listen to the band, read the memoir. It's really good. "Losing My Voice to Find It" by Mark Stewart. That's the memoir name. If you're into reading books. And in that book, he talks about how, unfortunately, after the band had kind of closed up shop, he got divorced. And so on the night that it, came time for all the stuff to get moved into separate houses,
Mm-hmm.
he was kind of sitting there looking at what used to be his house as he's watching his ex-wife drive away.
Wow.
And he decided, I don't want to be in this empty house all by myself. I'm going to go get in my truck and I'm going to drive somewhere. Now, it's like wintertime in Tennessee. They do get snow down there. So if you're trying to picture it, probably a little bit of snow too. Probably not nice, great weather. So he goes out to his truck. He gets in the front, gets in the driver's seat, goes to start the truck. It won't start. So not only is this poor guy seeing everything that they work for together as a couple kind of go up in flames, she drives away. He's in his truck. It won't start. And oh, by the way, he's pretty much lost the ability to do what he does for a living. And he's a faith-based person, so he said, God, please, just start this truck. If you can hear me, start this truck. And sure enough, whenever he went to start it after saying that, the truck started. And on the radio at that point in time, it wasn't a CD. It wasn't a CD in a CD player. Wasn't anything like that. It was on the radio station that happened to be on in the truck. "Good Life" by Audio Adrenaline, his band, starts playing. And he made a point of saying that he doesn't know why that song, "Good Life," started playing at that moment in time. But for him, that kind of renewed his faith a little bit.
Right. That's amazing. That really is.
And so for me, "Good Life" is a song that I hadn't really listened to that much prior to reading the memoir. And then when I went back and listened to it again, like, that's now one of my favorite songs.
That's just an amazing story, Elijah.
Because of that story.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, like I said, when I look at all of Audio Adrenaline's original, I can never say the word right, discography. There we go. When I look at it, you've got Audio Adrenaline, you've got "Don't Censor Me," you've got "Bloom," you've got Some Kind of Zombie, "Underdog," "Lift," "Worldwide," and "Until My Heart Caves In." That's 8 albums, by the way. I feel like these 3 albums that I'm suggesting, "Underdog," "Lift," and "Worldwide," are their best. To me, that's peak Audio Adrenaline.
Yep.
Not to say the other stuff isn't good, but I feel like the sound that everybody knows them for was found in those 3 albums.
They found that,
Now, unfortunately, they decided to come back. And when I say unfortunately, like, I am a fan of them, but hear me out. Unfortunately, they decided to come back. And when they came back, they didn't have Mark Stewart as a lead singer because obviously he still has the vocal issues. So they went out and they got Kevin Max, who was a part of a big Christian band, DC Talk, which that's a whole story in and of itself. But they went and they got Kevin Max to be their lead singer for an album. And that album is actually pretty good. But at the end of that album, Kevin Max kind of got into a disagreement with the management of Audio Adrenaline, saying, I want to take the band in this direction. And they didn't want to do that. So they let him go. And then they bring in another lead singer. And at that point, it kind of just turned into a worship band instead of a rock band that has Christian themes.
Yeah.
Because, like, you and I were talking about this earlier. Like, one of the things that I love about Audio Adrenaline is you can be a Christian listening to Audio Adrenaline with non-Christians, and they won't feel alienated because you're listening to a Christian band, because sometimes they can't tell.
Right.
They'll be like, hey, this is just good music.
Right. Yep.
But when Audio Adrenaline came back and they made that second lead singer change, it was like, you can't possibly listen to that music in a room of people who are not Christians.
Correct.
Because they're going to feel some type of way about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that to me, like, I feel like they lost
their way.
What made them special?
You can't replace the original lead singer. You can't replace his soul. Is that a good word to use?
I agree with that.
Something in them, and And yeah, I know that you told me too. He's not singing anymore.
So he's not singing, but he is doing public appearances, doing
Oh,
like
okay.
different things like that. Obviously, he's got the book
Charity
out.
work.
But one of the big things that Audio Adrenaline did back in the Underdog album, they had a song called Hands and Feet. And they
Yes.
actually started the charity, or orphanage, I should say, in Haiti
Wow.
to help kids out there. So that's kind of become
Awesome.
Mark Stewart's life,
Yep.
is that organization. Him and Will McGinnis are really big into that.
Yep.
But again, I just thought, hey, why not do Audio Adrenaline, because they're a pretty good band, and I definitely want to hear what you think. I mean, because obviously you listened to quite a few of their music today.
Yeah. Overall, I think they're a great band. I'm a fan now. I am. I'm definitely a fan. I will be listening to a lot more of their stuff that I didn't listen to today. But catchy lyrics, not just catchy and hooks, and their message behind their words too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's no pretense with this band. They're like
Yeah.
the real deal. They're really real. And it's sad that you said that the
Yeah.
lead singer can't sing anymore. Really? I mean, that's like taking.
And
Oh,
and like I
man.
said, I
that's-
really appreciated his brutal honesty
Wow.
in his memoir too, because he didn't have to go as in depth with everything as
And
he
now
did.
he's doing charity work over in Haiti. Amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
But like you think about it, like he had
Wow.
every reason to be angry.
Oh, my
You know,
God.
his band finally gets where they're trying to get to,
Yep.
just in time for him to
Yes.
have these issues
I know.
and have it all taken away. And yet he found a way to not be bitter
How
about
do you
it.
deal with
and
that? I mean,
I don't know,
really?
man. I wouldn't be
Oh.
able to do it. That's why I'm saying I admire him for it.
Just when
'Cause-
he's ready to do this, bang! It just
Because both of our jobs, or both of our day jobs, depend on us having a voice.
right.
You
Oh,
know
yeah.
what I mean? Because we're
Yeah.
both in radio, so I can't imagine having that taken away from you
No,
and
I
not being
know.
bitter about it. Because I would be bitter
Yeah.
about it. Like I would not be the bigger person. I would be bitter about
No,
that.
I would too.
So-
yeah. Oh,
And so would
absolutely.
Slinky. You can hear her in the
Slinky.
background. So yeah, she's the studio
She
mascot.
wants to get into
She wants-
broadcast.
She said,
Elijah.
"I love Underdog." 'Cause
She-
you know what's
Look.
funny? When I listen to the Underdog song from Audio Adrenaline, I always change the lyric to say Slinky Dog, because I'm corny like that. But anyway.
It's not core. It's great. Slinky Dog. That's what we call her, man.
That's right.
She's it.
But yeah, that's Audio Adrenaline. So again,
Yeah.
3 albums that I would suggest are like literally one after another after another.
You'll enjoy them. You really will. They're a great band.
Underdog
Great
from
band.
1999,
Yep.
Lift from 2001, and Worldwide from 2003. You can find all their music though on all the different streaming platforms. I like CDs though, so I went and actually purchased
Well, the
CDs.
sound quality is better on CD too. So.
So I got to ask you, and I'll put all three. I'll put all 3 covers up. What's your favorite cover? Because I know you're an album
The
cover guy.
Lift. I like
Lift?
that. Yeah, I just love that cover. It's nothing fancy about it. It's just the cover.
So no
Yeah.
offense, but you're wrong. I'm just kidding. But I love the Lift one too.
Okay.
Underdog is really cool too. It's not often you see a black and white album cover that actually looks interesting.
Right.
Like I feel like that's hard to do.
Right.
But like I feel like they pulled that off pretty well.
All right. Yeah. Great band. They released a total of 6.
8 total of 8 with
8?
the original members, and then they had 2 more. So I guess technically 10, but I don't
10
count the
really
last 2.
with a different singer.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they did the last 2 with 2 different singers. So
What if
I
the
don't count
sound
those.
changed at that time, maybe, or
I feel like it did.
yeah, you can't. Yeah. See.
But and again, I don't want to sound like I'm
Nothing
not
against
a
the
fan.
new singer,
Yeah.
but it's just not the same. It just-
You and I have talked about this though before, not to go on a tangent, but like you and I have said, like if you're gonna have a band and you lose one of the members of the band,
I know. Yeah.
don't keep going as that band. Start a different band.
Yeah. Some. Yeah.
But some
yeah.
people can get away with it though.
Exactly. But that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
You're right. Some bands have gotten away with it, Elijah. Yeah.
But hey, thank you for letting me, hijack your show.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just like listening to you. I don't have to talk much. So.